Welcome back to the sewing room. I'm Lara, and today I want to talk to you about greasing and oiling your sewing machine, how important it is, and also how easy it is. So yes, this is the 600 touch and sew I've been working on, and this is not just a sneaky way for me to talk to you more about this machine. I'm actually going to show things that are useful, really useful for any sewing machine. Alright, let's take a look under the hood and see what we're dealing with here grease-wise. Zooming in. Okay, so first thing, when you see like lots of spatter back here, sometimes that's a sign that the machine has been slightly over-greased, although that can also just happen. And then also, take a look here. That to me, that's a lot. That's kind of a lot. Let me try to get an even better angle if I can. I can't say for sure, and I'm not here to like grease shame anybody, but sometimes a machine ends up with more grease and oil on it than it should, because maybe it's running a little rough or a little slow, and you know, the person working with it isn't quite sure what to do, so they just add more grease and or oil, and ultimately that leads to a situation like this where there's just a lot of buildup here. And so I'm just going to grab a little rubbing alcohol and my trusty old toothbrush. What would we do without our gross old toothbrushes? And just try to clean this up a little bit. All right, let's talk a little bit about what vintage sewing machine enthusiasts mean when they say a machine is all metal. The part they're probably most concerned about not being metal is the gears. Now, not every sewing machine uses gears exclusively. Some do use belts for some parts of the machine, but in my experience, most vintage Singers use gears, and you'll see more of those soon. But among Singer sewing machine enthusiasts, there is some debate about which models were always made with metal gears and which ones weren't. I've even heard that machines with the same model number can be found in both all metal or with some plastic gears. And as we'll see in this machine, some of the gears in this machine aren't metal, but I would still consider this an all metal machine because frankly so much of it is. But not all plastic gears are bad, and many of them are still working fine even decades after they were made. Whether or not plastic gears are still reliable might depend on the exact manufacturing process for the plastic. There is more than one way to make plastic, how the machine was stored, and most importantly, how the machine was maintained. There are very strong opinions about sewing machine gear maintenance, and believe me, I know they're strong because I have some of them. What kind of grease should you use on your sewing machine, and how should you apply it? Well, I'm going to show you what I think. I'm just dipping the brush in the rubbing alcohol and then gently removing extra alcohol. I don't want to like drip alcohol into the machine. I'm just making sure the brush is wet, damp, but not dripping. And the rag here is partly a little bit of a shield for me because I have accidentally flicked this stuff onto myself before, and that just grosses me out. So trying to avoid that if I can. If your machine has kind of a funky smell, old grease can be one of the culprits. So cleaning this up can also help with that. Although there's lots of reasons a machine can smell a little funny. And again, don't freak out if it's not perfect, but anything's better than the way it was before. You may notice my nomenclature in this video. I say grease throughout the video because I think there's a chance
to accidentally create confusion if I use the term that's used more widely in the manuals for sewing machines. But just so you know, that's why I'm saying grease. Grease is also the correct term, but it's just the one I see a little bit less often. When oiling sewing machines, please only use sewing machine oil, which is designed to work best for the parts of the machine that do use oil. Oil sold for other purposes just doesn't work with sewing machines. With that said, do not apply oil to the gears of a sewing machine, but especially plastic gears. Oil can make those gears break down. Vintage sewing machines definitely need oil, but also need grease on the gears and sometimes for the motor. Personally, even though I don't have a Featherweight, I use prescription grease from the Featherweight Doctor. You'll see that in a bit. I've heard good things about Sew Retro grease too. I just haven't used it. I've also heard some people use Triflow, but it wasn't designed for sewing machines, so I don't use it.
All right, time to grease these gears. So actually, when you look at the manual for this machine, the only place in this part of the machine where it says to add any grease is right here. This little guy here. There's two little metal things that come together right here. And let me change the angle so you can actually see them coming together. Okay, so there's a gear here. You can see the lovely dark metal gear. And underneath it, you can actually hopefully see, can you see that? Yes. So you can see the shiny metal underneath. Now, these are actually made of the same material. One of them is just a darker color than the other for whatever reason. But I do want you to note that back here, this is actually two different materials. Make sure you can see that. If you look very, very closely, this is metal here on the left, and on the right or to the front of the machine, that is not metal. That is probably a resin or something else, but it is not metal. And if I touch it, I can definitely feel that it's not metal, but even looking at it, it's this very dark brown color that it's not metal. Since it is of unknown origin and it does not show this as a grease point in the manual, I am not going to put grease on this. And if there is any grease on it, my big goal is to remove it. You can see at some point there was grease applied here because there's grease kind of thrown all over the place back here. Just to be nice to the metal back here, I'm going to take a rag and try to clean that up a little bit just so that it looks nicer. It doesn't affect the way the machine actually runs, but again, it can be a little bit smelly over time as the grease oxidizes. It can just kind of have a little bit of a smell to it, and since this is easy for me to reach, I'm just going to soak a rag in a little rubbing alcohol and kind of wipe that out. I'm not going to add grease here, and here's why. This stuff that's not metal can actually be degraded over time if it's exposed to the wrong product. And I don't know what the right product is for this material, so you're better off leaving it completely ungreased, unmessed with, unoiled. Just leave it alone. If it's not metal on metal, most of the time you do want to not add any grease to it at all. If it's not running well, grease is probably not going to help. And yeah, I mean, you can consult an actual technician at that point if you think everything else in the machine has been greased and oiled, and yet something's making more noise than you would like, or something's not running as smooth as you would like. But I would definitely not add any oil or grease to something if I don't know what it is, and especially even if it's not metal, if it's just not metal on metal, I just don't trust any grease that I can buy to not potentially harm that. With all that said, this is the grease or lubricant that I use for everything. I buy it from the Featherweight Doctor. She calls it prescription grease, and I love it because I know it's safe to use both on any of my metal gears and also actually to lubricate the engine for my Singer 301. And you know, it's not expensive, and one tube will last you for a really long time because you really do only need a dab. You don't need to go nuts here. Again, we're not filling a cannoli. I'm just going to put a little bit right on my finger. It's a little stiff. Come on. I mean, really just a dab. And just dab it. And your finger is going to get dirty. Oops. Didn't go very good. And I really just the teeniest, tiniest coating is what we're going for here. Don't need a big production, which is lucky because this stuff comes out really slow. I think I've gone all the way around. And I could have been watching to make sure, but I will stop. If I can see where I've been, I put on too much. Vibes only. Okay, there are also 8 oiling points in this part of the machine. Now that I have the cover off, I'm just going to take a minute to oil all of those. All right, number 1 is right there. Number 2 is right there. Alright, now just now I actually got a little more oil in there than I wanted, but I'm going to zoom in and show you that point in the machine, and then I'm just going to blot that oil so that you can see what it looks like when that part of the machine is oiled. This is what I'm talking about. It's this little round guy right here, and I did just put on a little too much oil, so I'm just going to blot that. Dab. There we go. Here's this guy. Again, this is basically the same thing. It's just a different shape, but just the middle just comes up higher. So when you're oiling this part, the oil doesn't go in the top here. It goes down here where the piston actually moves. It's not moving right now, but I assume at some point it moves. Little spot of oil for the cam stack. Keep that going well. There are 2 possible, I think it's this one. That's the oil, and then there are 3 more back here. 1, 2. Okay, and I'll show you another special case back here. Sometimes you have this kind of shape like this, where there's kind of, looks almost like a runway. And to oil that, you really do just kind of sweep oiler across that. I think, oh, there's one more. Boop. So sometimes this spot you need to oil is very obvious, and it's just a hole that you put the oiler into, and then sometimes it's something where you have to sweep or you have to go around a little circle, and honestly, just watching it is your best teacher. Again, just turning the wheel to work the oil through a little bit. And man, this machine it's smooth. This is running super smooth, so fingers crossed it's this good everywhere. Getting ready to put the cover back on, again making sure that this guy is below this level, because if it's too high it's going to get hit. So I have to keep it lower. This isn't a concern for every machine, but for some touch and sews, you do have to think about that. When I'm putting the cover back on, my goal is to kind of catch these two springs as it slides on. So if I don't feel that, as soon as you can hear it, then I know I need to do it again. Basically kind of settles and then pushes back. You hear that? That ringing tone is all that kind of sliding into place. Screw back in and we're on to the next step. Okay, now to really enter the unknown, which is the bottom of the machine. So I'll flip back. And wow, okay, that's a little gross. Gosh, I am a teeny bit afraid of spiders. So I am just gonna grab, yeah, I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna grab a rag and I'm gonna clean this out. One area on pretty much every older sewing machine that could definitely use some attention is these guys. And I've done videos about this before, but for machines that are relatively popular, like Singer's, these are actually pretty easy to find and replace. What's happened is over the years the rubber in them has just degraded and they're kind of squished, so they're not providing the level of like kind of cushioning and level that it's supposed to provide. And so that is one thing that you want to consider replacing on a machine if you want to really get the best experience of the machine. If you don't have that option, you could always just rest the machine on a, any padded surface. You can buy specific like things for dampening the noise of a sewing machine, but you can also literally just use a folded up old towel. That does tend to work just fine. So, options, inexpensive options all the way up through actually replacing, but usually these are relatively easy to find and replace if you want to. If I see something move, I'm just gonna start screaming, so be ready for that. Ugh. So gross. Ew, ew, ew. Alright, took out 3 screws. Let's see if that's the right number. I think I have to take them all off. Oh wait, maybe not. No, it's definitely still attached. Ugh. Alright, it's all gotta go. I guess one of the reasons I don't mind replacing these is I have to unscrew them anyway. Might as well have them look nicer. Oh yeah, I think that's gonna be it. Yeah. that's definitely it. Wow, 7 screws. Okay, they were really serious about this thing not coming off. Let's see if that was enough. Almost. Oh, okay. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was just stuck. Yeah, I think that was holding that on. Yeah. I did have to. Okay, so it was just stuck to that one, but then this does need to come off. Oh, gross. Ugh. All right. That's okay. That's ew. Who knows what lurks underneath the gears of the sewing machine. Anyway, I'm going to clean this up with, I'm going to hit it with the vacuum cleaner first. And then basically, let me look how many oiling and grease points I've got under here. All right, according to the manual, I have 12 oiling points and 2 grease points under here. The one thing that seems kind of good is whoever greased the top of the machine looks like they didn't get to the bottom of the machine, so I don't see a ton of extra grease, which is nice, but it just needs a little clean. Now you might be saying to yourself, wow, I'm really watching somebody vacuum a sewing machine on YouTube, like what's happening with my life. But you might also be saying to yourself, maybe, I really hope this doesn't look like a reason to anybody to not take on vintage sewing machines or sewing with them, because I know this is like gross and involved and it's taking a little while, but new machines also gather lint in this area of the machine, no matter what you do. This could be 10 years of lint, this could be 5 years of lint, this could be 2 months of lint if someone sews with something that lints a lot, like a polyester fleece or, you know, well, anything that lints a lot. So the difference is this machine is designed for me, the user, the sewist, the person actually owning the machine, to clean and maintain it relatively easy. I mean, I had to unscrew 7 screws, and that's kind of annoying. Some machines only have like one little thing you have to unhook. But the fact that I even can access this part of the machine without breaking it is not available on the majority of modern machines. So to me, that alone is a reason to absolutely love, cherish, and put the effort in with these machines, because they are built for you to be able to keep it running without having to either pay someone else to repair it or just replace it every couple of years. All right, soapbox. In soapbox. What I'm looking for underneath the machine there are lots of, as you can see, little shafts and things that kind of go against each other. So that's why there's so many oiling points, and there's still a little grossness right there. Come on. Clean that up. All right, so the main thing I'm looking to oil are, you know, the kind of overall thing is anything where pieces of metal are rubbing together. And sometimes it's not easy to see, but If you have the manual, that helps, but even if you don't, again, if you just turn the wheel and turn the hand wheel and keep an eye on what's moving, and then oil anything that's moving. See a little more dust back there that I don't want. You never want to oil over dust because it just kind of glues it down and can make things worse. So actually, I take back what I said earlier. There is a little grease, a little more grease on here that I'd like to see. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before with the toothbrush and just a little rubbing alcohol and clean that up before I start oiling. Still a little more. If you come to my house and you need rubbing alcohol, don't worry. This is sewing machine cleaning only. I don't use this for anything else. Reminds me of Monty Python. Oh, there's some lovely muck over here. It's definitely mucky. I think lovely filth, is that what they say? Anyway, something. They say something. Alright, just one more little swipe. There we go. Right in there. Anywhere you see a metal kind of shaft, there's usually going to be at least one oiling point on either end of it. And then sometimes they are behind each other, so you have to really look. Okay, so I did this into this one. I'm going to come over to this end. I'm going to zoom out. I'm trying to zoom in so that so you can really see, but you know, catch-22, I guess. Okay, so then there's a point there where these two rub together. But this is one of the reasons having the manual helps you so much, because you could miss some of these. Not everything's obvious. Like this one's obvious because there's a little hole there, but they're not all obvious. Oops. If you oiled 10 points instead of 12, it's probably not a big deal. Just try again next time. I always kind of hoped that like if I missed one or two each time that I would miss different ones the next time. And again, too little oil. I know this is counterintuitive, but too little oil is still better than too much. Again, just turning that wheel to work it all in. I know you can't actually feel this, but man, this is smooth. This is a very smooth action on this machine. All right, time to close that all up. I almost forgot to grease the gears, guys. That was the whole point of this video. All right, so just like before, fingertip. You really only need a little bit. And this has two areas. There's this area here, and there's one over here. I can see metal gear there. And if you're getting a lot of black on your fingers, that can be a sign that the machine definitely needed a little love. That black is from the metal rubbing against itself. Brown is old grease, black is metal against metal. Running out of fingers. This is me putting on makeup. Just dab it on there. Why rubbing alcohol and not just soap and water? Soap and water is fine. That's all you've got. But I do like rubbing alcohol for this because it's a slightly better solvent, and also because it evaporates so quickly, you don't have to worry about rust. Soap and water, you'd have to be really, really careful that everything were perfectly dry before you put it away. If this is your first time coming by, thank you so much for stopping by. If you've been here before, thank you for coming back. Either way, hope to see you soon.